Eid Mubarak to our Muslim community. Thanks for choosing RTV News. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Kigali, Rwanda. I am Isabel Masozera with my colleague
Sam Kalisa.
Well, we have a look at our top stories first.
President Paul Kagame has received and held discussions with Patricia Scotland, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, who is in the country for the 12th Regional Conference of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth African countries that will begin on Tuesday.
And members of the general public here in Kigali City are calling for better service delivery, noting that there has been a steady decline.
The Ministry of Health says it is working on ensuring 3,000 patients with long-standing surgery appointments get the surgeries they need soon.
And on the international scene, a modified coffee seedling and new farming practices are helping the country achieve steady growth in coffee production.
Good evening once again, and thank you for choosing Rwanda Television News. Now, news in details.
As we begin this edition, let us inform you that President Paul Kagame has received and held discussions with Patricia Scotland, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, who is in the country for the 12th Regional Conference of the Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa that will begin on Tuesday. Now, the two dignitaries discussed the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is set to be held here in Kigali, Rwanda, next month.
And on to other matters, today marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The Islamic community has expressed utmost gratitude to the government of Rwanda for its efforts in fighting against COVID-19 and appreciated the opportunity to celebrate together in person. Once again, we draw the report with Precious Chirezi.
At 7 a.m. this morning, Muslims all over were up early taking part in a prayer meant to thank God for getting them through the holy month of Ramadan.
Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd.
Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. This is all through the power of the Almighty.
It has been 2 years since the Islam community was able to convene and celebrate a day such as this because COVID could not facilitate big gatherings, but this time approximately 5,000 members of the community were at the Nyamirambo Stadium to celebrate together.
I'm very happy about the fact that it has been 2 years since we last uttered this prayer, but today we were able to, and I'm thankful to God for that. We are thankful to God, and I believe that He will take care of even the remnants of COVID-19, and I urge my fellow Muslims to get vaccinated so that life can get back to normal with no fear of contracting contagious diseases.
I'm very happy. It has been a long 2 years since we were last able to celebrate like this together. You can tell how happy we are to be celebrating it the right way again. After the morning prayer session, the Islamic community then departed back to their homes to celebrate with their families and friends. Some celebrated in their homes and others in Virjogo. At the Marwa Mosque in the city of Kigali, there were over 100 Muslims that celebrated together, most of whom were new followers of Islam. Sharing with them is a show of love.
You cannot express love without interacting with the people you want to express the love to, and sharing meals with people is one of the ways of expressing that love and making them feel at home, which may eventually result into you welcoming them to Islam.
The Mufti of Rwanda, Sheikh Hitimana Salim, urged the Islamic community to continue to do good deeds not only in Ramadan, but at all times. He also insisted that they take all the necessary measures to fight COVID-19.
Being hardworking enables people to remain happy. However, not earning your living makes it hard to maintain that happiness. Hard work is a necessity since the pandemic slowed down productivity. My advice would be to work hard enough to secure the future.
The Mufti went on to urge Muslims to take the necessary measures to fight COVID in every aspect of their lives and encouraged them to get fully vaccinated. Precious Chirezi, RTV News.
Thank you, Precious. Now, members of the general public in Kigali City are calling for better service delivery, noting that there has been a steady decline. We have the details.
The people we spoke to expressed disdain for the treatment they get at some establishments, saying it is almost as if the employees do not know why they were hired to begin with. You may go to get petrol or diesel at a station and the people at the pump completely ignore you and you just sit there. In restaurants, it is not uncommon to place an order and get something completely different, not the service you want. People say such businesses lose customers when nothing changes. We older people are not patient. I go to a place and when not treated right, I go elsewhere without uttering a word. Those in the service sector say they are working on the problem. We assure our customers that we have revamped our service delivery and hired more people, as I said earlier. Our objective is to satisfy our customers and we will continue doing this because when it comes to service delivery, improvements are never a one-time thing. Our customers have my number and call me to tell me that we provide good services here at Nyirangarama and appreciate how even when they misplace something, they can always come back and it is returned to them. Officials at the Private Sector Federation say the matter is to be discussed during an upcoming meeting bringing together the federation's members so that measures can be agreed on and implemented, while the mayor of Kigali City says efforts have already begun to improve service delivery in the city, with establishments that do not comply risking penalties. We are coordinating with investors and those working in the city's restaurants and hotels so that when we carry out the inspections, tangible results can be attained and penalties imposed on any who fail in their responsibilities of proper service delivery, enabling us to improve it and meet the required standards. The country's leadership has pointed out that meeting the required standards is long overdue. This is a serious problem that you have refused to address. We have talked about this for very many years. Only Rwandans can settle for the poor service delivery in hotels and restaurants and pretend that there is nothing wrong. Rwanda has made impressive progress in numerous sectors such as education, health, tourism and trade, but poor service delivery has continued to be a thorn in the side of that progress that experts say, if remains unchecked, will eventually seriously affect the country's economic development and welfare of her people.
Thank you, Serge, for the report. And as we move ahead, a delegation of Zambian parliamentarians have begun a week-long study tour in Rwanda, focusing on the country's education system and how technology is being used in primary and secondary schools. On day one of their visit, the Zambian parliamentarians held discussions with Rwanda's Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Donatil Mukabadisa. The visit is in line with the implementation of agreements signed between both countries. We draw the report with Betty Motoni.
The Zambian committee appreciates how Rwanda is performing well in the implementation of the teaching of ICT in schools, and this is the reason this committee found it worthy to benchmark with the Rwanda's counterparts, which will enable them to advise Zambian government on the subject, as it is explained by the chairperson of the Government Assurances Committee, Edjot Kamondo.
When the subject of information and technology actually was introduced in primary and secondary school, is that the biggest challenge was that maybe about 10 or even 20 people would face one computer. So that actually made it very difficult for our students and pupils to catch up. Of late, actually, it has improved, where maybe we have at least even about 10 under one computer. So the idea is, with the coming of COVID, it has really necessitated that there is need actually to improve on the subject of information and technology. Also, one thing that I want to acknowledge, which is very important, is the relationship which is between actually Rwanda and Zambia. Of late, we were very happy to see President Kagame going to Zambia, and where they had a lot of talks with our President Hakainde Hichilema. This is actually a very good positive thing, and we are hoping that going in the future, we want to do things better, especially in Africa.
The Speaker of Rwandan Parliament, Donatilla Mukabalisa, noted that this visit was done in the line with the implementation of partnership agreement with Zambia when the President Paul Kagame recently visited Zambia.
Urugendo rwa nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika yagiriye muri Zambia mu minsi mike ishize.
The recent visit the President had in Zambia, where he signed different agreements and helped the business owners to find out the chances around for them to develop, and also others to be able to know different chances found in Rwanda, which can help them to improve their standards. And all this is done to make sure that we develop African continent by exchanging ideas within us. There is a lot to share and develop African continent and its citizens. The Zambian members of parliament are requesting the media to be part of this visit to inform the world about the promotion of cooperation with Rwanda and Africa at large. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Betty. Now, in more news, the Ministry of Health says it is working on ensuring 3,000 patients with long-standing surgery appointments get the surgeries they need soon. The University of Butare and Kigali, as well as Rwanda Military Hospital, have signed patient transfer agreements with King Faisal to make sure they address this problem. Gislin Mugwaneza filed this report.
Some local residents do not appreciate the fact that they get long waiting periods after being transferred to Seashika. My loved one has stomach problems, intestinal and ulcers, and they got treatments at Gisenyi Hospital and later got transferred to Seashika. When you are sick and they give you long-standing appointments, sometimes the patient does not heal. Seashika officials say there are procedures to be followed when appointments are given.
We categorize patients according to the severity of their illness. You can't see a person with a tumor in their bladder and say that the person will undergo surgery after 2 months. The person should be operated on immediately.
According to the Ministry of Health, there are almost 3,000 patients on the pending list to be operated on by specialists. The head of clinical and public health services at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Colney Nihabose, has mentioned some of the negative effects of late treatments.
When you are sick and do not get immediate service, your sickness becomes far worse and it takes 1 to 2 months for a doctor to operate on you. If it is a bone fracture and you take that long to be operated on, the bone can incorrectly heal itself, which will give the surgeons an even harder time and will take longer for you to heal properly. Delays can cause sicknesses to get much worse as well as result in death.
King Faisal Hospital say that they are fully equipped and ready to receive and treat transferred patients.
We have
the medical equipment, doctors are available, and we are ready to put the program into action. If they come while needing more tests such as MRI, we are ready to provide the service to understand the patient's sickness better, as well as mitigate the effects of their illness and surgery itself. We shall talk to those hospitals next week so that we get the lists of the patients to be transferred here. It won't exceed 2 weeks before the program begins.
The government of Rwanda is putting more effort in teaching and training a big number of healthcare providers due to the fact that there are few compared to the existing diseases and those in need of medical treatments. The Ministry of Health has noted that there will be no changes in medical services cost. Ghislaine Mugwaneza, RTV News.
Thank you, Ghislaine, for the report. Citizens say corruption is a major barrier to better service delivery and that it reduces the confidence and trust people have in their leaders. We'd have more. Some citizens say that despite the progress made in the fight against corruption, it is still evident, something that hinders a service delivery. In court cases, the person with money to bribe judges wins the case. We cannot develop when corruption is still evident, plus the mindset that you cannot do anything without being bribed, because with such mindset, you cannot provide a good service without being corrupt. Corruption is very bad. It is mostly evident when seeking land documents. Sometimes employees in charge are not available, and other times they tell you to wait. Figures indicate that in 2021, Rwanda had a global score of 53% compared to 54% in 2020. In 2020, 959 corruption-related allegations were investigated by the Rwanda Investigation Bureau (RIB), and 815 corruption-related allegations were investigated last year. Apollinaire Mupiganyi, Executive Director of Transparency International Rwanda, explained that various agencies have continued to show their willingness in addressing the issue that has been evident in various sectors. Those working in the justice sector should have more values than we ask those in other sectors, because they serve people who have problems and they're hoping that they can be solved by them. So when corruption cases come in, it reduces the citizens' trust in the government. Fighting corruption is a primary goal for our country. The Deputy Director of Never Again Rwanda says that corruption is one of the causes of poor service delivery, thus measures to continue fighting the crime that has been put among crimes without a statute of limitation can increase the quality of service delivery. According to the bribe index, more than 50% responded that corruption is not on a high rate in Rwanda. But on the other hand, our research and experience show that corruption is still evident in the private sector and local authorities. So these sectors should fight corruption in order to improve service delivery. From 2014 to 2021, the total amount that was recovered in relation to corruption offences amounted to 6.6 billion Rwandan francs, 3,729 euros, 14,743 US dollars, and other property worth more than 100 million Rwandan francs. Property recovery is done in accordance with court decisions.
You're still watching RTV News, and in more news, for the first time, Rwanda will host a meeting of the heads of anti-corruption agencies in Commonwealth African countries. The forum is made up of 20 institutions from 18 countries. The meeting will be attended by Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland. In an interview with RBA, Ombudsperson Nirere Madeleine noted that the meeting is expected to take major resolutions to reduce corruption on the African continent, as 88.6 billion US dollars are lost in crime related to corruption on the continent.
Rwanda will host the 12th regional conference of head of anti-corruption bodies in Africa. The aim of this conference is to discuss initiative at the African continent regarding the anti-corruption, also discussing the remaining issues and concerns regarding the loss, which amount of 88.6 billion every year of loss in corruption at the African level, and We also, each country will share its report, its strategies to combat corruption. Also, we discuss partnerships between among African countries to combat corruption. At a conference which we discuss corruption, impact of corruption on good governance and sustainable development in Africa, and it will come up with the strategies to overcome remaining challenges, especially lack of transparency, bad governance, also corruption issues, also some loopholes and in practice, because we have laws, have good laws, but in practice we still have issues in implementing those laws. Also, it will come up with some more MOUs, a memorandum of understanding between Rwanda and the other countries, especially one that perform well in Africa, Botswana, which is the number one in Africa, Seychelles, Cape Verde. Those countries we share the experience on how they on the strategies to combat corruption. Rwanda is expected to be number one worldwide by 2050, and we set we set goals to attend and to be achieved by 2050, and it will be an opportunity to see the achievement, what we have achieved, what to be achieved to reach this goal of being number one at global level by 2050. Also, in a national strategy for transformation, there are some goals regarding good governance, combating corruption, where we need to reach 92.4 in combating corruption. Also, in this regional conference, Rwanda will be the new chairman. We chair the Commonwealth of Africa for 2 years. It will be a great opportunity to foster members' institutions, also to partner with other institutions in the line of combating corruption. Also, it will be an opportunity to share with members' institutions Rwanda's initiative and activities or achievements in line with combating corruption.
Welcome back, and glad you kept it to Rwanda Television News. As we're to international scene, Isabel.
Notable progress in Ghana, where a modified coffee seedling and new farming practices are helping the country achieve steady progress in coffee production, which had declined over the past decade. And now, female farmers are actually taking lead in producing coffee. We have this report courtesy of Voice of America.
Scientists at Ghana's Cocoa Research Institute say they have developed 2 new varieties of coffee seedlings that are very promising.
They are very high yielding, and then they are relatively tolerant, I will not say resistant, tolerant to pests and diseases as well as moisture stress. And then they have what we call good cup quality about the drinking. They taste very well.
Experts say the new seedlings are reviving Ghana's coffee industry and that women are playing a big part in that growth. Industry figures show the number of women farmers has jumped by 22% in the last 5 years. The new varieties are specific to Ghana's environment, says growers, and more likely to produce good yields.
What that does for our women farmers in particular is that they are able to farm Robusta without breaking their backs, because now the effort that is put into it is less.
The number of coffee bean production facilities has also increased, lowering the amount of green beans being exported for production.
A number of local roasters have come into the system, and so the export has dwindled to a point where almost no coffee was being exported because the local roasters were picking up everything. So you see the numbers for exports have really gone down, but not necessarily the production itself.
Industry researchers say more than half of Ghana's 15 new coffee roasting companies are owned by women who pay more for the beans from local farmers than exporters do. Coffee roaster Amy Beth uses Ghanaian spices and flavors on her products. They are then sold in local markets or exported abroad, including the US and Europe.
You could see that the coffee culture was growing. People also had access to global markets, so they were traveling, they were experiencing coffee, and they were understanding the usefulness of coffee in general. So it was very obvious to me that that revolution was coming to Ghana, and it was important for us to position ourselves in a manner in which we could also be a game changer in the coffee industry globally.
According to the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, trade in coffee makes up the largest part of tropical beverages, even more than cocoa and tea. The Ghanaian government says its goal is to continue growing coffee to outperform the country's cocoa production, or at least match it to generate more income. Sana Anutod for VOA News, Accra, Ghana.
And there you go. As we end off our tonight's edition, allow me to welcome and thank very much Isabel Masozera on Rwanda Television News.
It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure co-anchoring with you, my first bulletin.
All right. And it's just the beginning, so we're moving ahead with more.
I guess you'll be seeing a lot more of me. But hey, every good thing comes to an end. Thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. We hope we earned just that. On behalf of the entire news team here at RBA, myself and my co-host Sam Karisa, have a good night.